Hi, my name's James and welcome to R&R, the show where I react to and review some of the latest and greatest music videos. Today, I'll be sifting through the entire Chappell Roan catalogue that is available on her YouTube channel to really see if she has something different or if she's just another cookie cutter pop sensation. Let's go. Okay, so starting off with Good Hurt. So far it's kind of got that, you know, Adele, Florence and the Machine kind of thing going for it, that indie pop, you know, it doesn't quite know if it wants to be, yeah, like full pop, or if it wants to say a little bit more organic and have that sort of like slightly softer rock undertone. But I guess, you know, for an artist's first release, and from what I understand, you know, this was when Chappell Roan was signed to Atlantic Records. So, you know, a major label deal at this point. And you can kind of tell, even from here, you know, the performance, I guess the acting within the music video so far is not too bad, but the acting of the vocal performance, that's where you can definitely tell, you know, not 100% comfortable. As for the song, yeah, the musical backing, it's okay. There's nothing too special in there. It's very simple and works. The vocal performance, it's actually, I'm going to say it's not necessarily the performance, but maybe just the way it was mixed. The intelligibility is very much lost in a lot of the words, and I think when you have such a stripped back musical backing for the vocal to sit on top of, you really want, you know, the message behind the lyrics known. And yeah, it's kind of not what we're getting here. There's also a very interesting accent being used. A very compelling music video. Vocals sound heaps better here. That higher register with the low piano, the dark piano as well. Sounds very good. And even like the performance of the vocal there on screen just looked better. Like, I know she's saying Good Hurt, but it kind of sounds like Goose Heart. So yeah, I think as for a first outing, you know, first single with big major industry backing, I would say the song itself isn't the most interesting, but definitely the video. I do wonder if it was Chappell's idea for the music video, or if there was a producer involved to facilitate that portion of the piece of art, because yeah, the music video is very compelling. You know, there's a lot. I think it really takes a decent song and makes it actually very interesting, which personally I think, you know, that's really what a official music video should do. So I'm probably going to skip over a lot of the official audio for that reason, but I am very interested in checking out some of the acoustic tracks and the live tracks especially. So up next is going to be Bad For You acoustic. Production on this is very nice for a live performance. Yeah, really nice, really strong start. I don't know what it is about the accent. I think this is a very prominent thing that you get with a lot of both young artists as they're still trying to find their voice and be comfortable with their voice, but also maybe just of this era as well. You know, it's very, very similar to an artist like Lord and, you know, of that ilk. It's definitely a vibe, but it's not something that I personally enjoy. It kind of has that like lazy approach, which, yeah, just doesn't really work for me. But then once she really opens up to that sort of what I'm guessing is the chorus section and the hallelujah, hallelujah, and then it sort of evolves and she really opens up her vocal there, that's really when vocally it obviously comes alive, but then musically, you know, the production around it is built up very, very well, and the dynamic shifts is very, very nice. I'm also really liking just this single shot of Chappell, and you know, we get the 4:3 aspect ratio, we get this sort of like very low lit and just the single sort of pinky purple light coming in. That's, yeah, it's all very nice. And I think it also adds to that aesthetic and that vibe of the soft kind of vocal performance from the verse sections. But it's also very reminiscent of sort of like a Kate Bush film clip without, you know, the theatrics of the body contortion and gymnastic sort of performance. So yeah, pretty cool. Just slightly goes into the head voice and then comes back down. That's really nice. The really nice textural bed that all the reverb effects from the guitar and the vocal are making is very nice. Yeah, that was really, really nice. I honestly don't have any criticisms for that. I think, to be honest, that should have been the first release. That should have been, you know, what sets the stage. You know, Good Hurt was a fine song to start off with, but I think that really, that's, you know, the music video for Good Hurt was very compelling, where that as just a straight up performance really shows, I think, the art of the vocal performance much more than the sort of whole encompassing thing, you know, of what the song could be with a music video. Yeah, that was really something else. But I think at this point also there's still, you know, room for improvement. There's room for going places, which I think is very important for any artist particularly. You know, there's always room to improve and room to explore. So next up we've got Meantime acoustic. Look, it's just me, but yeah, the delivery, you know, that lazy delivery kind of irks me. It's just a personal thing. Everything else so far is great. I really like the single light again. I like, you know, the movement in both the camera and how the light, yeah, is backlighting and then it's right there. I don't think the guitarist should have been there in the background though, unless if he was also wearing a black skivvy. I think that would have looked much better. I was really hoping this song was going to go somewhere, and it finally has, and that's really good. Not as interesting as the previous track. That almost felt like there was a really good idea for a song, but they couldn't really figure out how to develop it to resolve. But maybe that's a good thing, you know, sort of even just working off of some of the story elements I've picked up on through the lyrics, and of course, you know, the title of the song, you know, Meantime. Maybe it sort of feels like a bridging song. It sort of feels like there should be a follow-up to this song to resolve it rather than it having to resolve within itself. But yeah, I would say overall not as interesting as Bad For You. Bad For You was much more interesting, compelling. I'm now going to check out the mini documentary from Chappell Roan.
I never thought in a million years that I would ever have this job. In my head, it just didn't seem like it was even a possibility because I live in Willard, Missouri. There's 5,000 people there. There's more cows than people. Whenever I go back home, I like to be around my family, and I mostly just watch YouTube and play Wii with my friends.
Wait, Wii?
By myself. Sometimes I play Sims. So
it's really dating the video.
Leaving such a small town and coming to such a big place. When I go back to LA, I just don't feel as grounded as I do when I'm home. I got signed when I had just turned 17. I was still like worried about like, oh my God, am I gonna go to prom? Like, I just had no idea what to expect. It's really nerve-wracking releasing my music to the entire world because it's very personal. And it's about real things that happened to me, and all my thoughts are just laid out there for just everyone to see. Honestly, all I want is for people to feel something when they hear it. My name is Chappell Roan because of my grandpa Chappell. He passed away last September. People would always ask if I had a plan B, and he never asked. He just knew I could do it. And so I decided to name myself Chappell after him. I think this is what I was born to do. After the interviews and the press and everything, I will always go home. That is what is going to keep me grounded the absolute most.
Very interesting, very touching. Pretty amazing to be able to fit, and condense quite a lot of information, quite a lot of character into, just under 3 minutes. And to make it quite compelling, obviously, whoever filmed it and then edited it, definitely made it very, very theatrical and very dramatic, which I think kind of adds to it, or at least adds to maybe the quality, that they're obviously trying to put out there at this point in time, really trying to sell Chappell as a legitimate artist. And I guess, that is the great thing about having, a large label being able to back you, is that, they do have the budget to be able to do that sort of thing. Pretty interesting. There was slight moments, at least for me, that kind of felt slightly insincere, but then, that out of the whole thing, that was only probably 1%. The rest of it, 99% of it, felt very sincere and very true, which I think is very important as well. Okay, so next up, we've got the acoustic version of Good Hurt, which I'm pretty interested in. Feels a little bit rushed. The tempo feels a bit quicker than the original. And you can kind of hear that in the vocal performance. It's not bad. Usually, when you strip a song back and play it acoustically, this is really when you can tell if a song is great. Yeah, I would definitely say it's not a bad song, but I think it works better with being fully produced. And you know, that's not saying that the guitarist's performance or Chappell's performance is bad at all. But yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, it feels a little bit rushed. The performance should be a little bit slower, and maybe that might improve it as a whole. But not bad, not bad. And now on to Die Young, the next official music video. Yeah, this one just really okay. Like, it feels like Chappell's come with these very dramatic lyrics, these very serious lyrics, and they've built this track around it all to meet that dramatic feel from the lyrics, and it's kind of cheapened it, I guess. I was really waiting for the vocals to really explode because they've been quite contained so far, and it felt like that was about to happen, and then it kind of didn't really pay off. Yeah, it's like I can hear what they're trying to achieve. It's just not quite getting there. Yeah, I think with that one, that's definitely a case of some quite compelling lyrics, but then producers got their hands over it and yeah, just overcooked it. I don't think it needed to be that overproduced, and it also felt like maybe, yeah, it just wasn't in the right key for Chappell, or yeah, there was influence to not have the vocals really dig deeper into the lyrics. I think, yeah, have a much more simpler musical composition and then have the vocals do the heavy work, because the lyrics are already so intense and personal, and the focus should be the vocals, and it just really wasn't there. And then yeah, you have the very dramatic video clip to go along with it as well, which yeah, I think it just didn't work for that one, at least for me. It just, yeah, sort of missed the point, I think. So I'm really interested to now check out the acoustic version of Die Young to see if it should actually just be an acoustic version. Already so much better. Even the lazy vocal delivery just works so much better here. You don't have all the effects and other instruments sort of clouding the vocal. Even though I would say her vocal is a little bit softer within the mix, which kind of sucks. Yeah, so much better. So much better as an acoustic version. Yeah, really, it's just the mix in this one that's a bit off. Everything else is great. I think I should have just dropped down to vocal there. And then the guitar builds everything up from there. That's what I should have done. Because we get a really nice resolve there within the lyrics. Yeah, so much better, so much better. It didn't need all the fanfare and the flair of the production and instrumentation. You know, the composition around the whole song from the studio version, it didn't need to be there. Easily could have just been, yeah, as we just experienced, so much better. So again, I'm gonna skip over some official audio versions, and next one up is Bitter Live Acoustic. I wonder what the finger thing is about. I picked up on it now. Yeah, sort of adds this sort of, I don't know what you would call it, performative element with her fingers. I guess you gotta do something with your hands when you're a vocalist. Otherwise, very awkward. It's very subtle, but some very nice reverb effect being used that really just offers such an interesting texture and vibe to the song. I will say the guitar work, it's very nice, but I think it's a little bit over the top. Kind of takes things away from Chappell's performance a little bit. Particularly because, yeah, there is some very strong lyrical themes here. I really like these simple videos of just a single shot of the performance, you know, single light source, just focusing on Chappell. Yeah, again, a really nice song, great lyrics, you know, simple but personal. But yeah, I think it more the composition around it kind of steps on the feet of the vocal performance a little bit. Not to say that, yeah, it's a bad composition that the guitar, you know, is playing, but yeah, it just kind of maybe not the best approach to feature the vocals and the lyrics, which is, I think in this setting, that should be the main case. You know, that should be the what you're trying to achieve. So I believe during this time as well, Atlantic Records drops Chappell Roan, and then Chappell begins to write and release songs independently. I'm not exactly sure when that is, but I think we'll find out potentially in the next song, which is Sugar High official music video, because at the end of all the other official music videos, it's had, you know, the big Atlantic Records banner, and it's also in the description box as well. That's a cool way to open up a song. That's really nice lighting there. Interesting production. Yeah, I think lyrically this one's definitely not the strongest. But the production behind the whole thing is very interesting. It's such an odd combination of like R&B, a bit of a dirty blues element, and then you get like the synth pop sort of stuff as well. Very, very odd, very interesting. Interesting. Yeah, wow. What a weird dynamic shift. Because there was elements, you know, the hands coming over and sort of caressing, or was it choking? I'm not sure. But then yes, so many other little things. It felt like it was trying to tell a story, but then it also just felt like there was just interesting shots intercut in between. Odd, interesting, yeah, I don't know about that one. Because yeah, lyrically it definitely wasn't as interesting either, but everything around it was somewhat compelling. And I don't know why. It was definitely a vibe. I think that was the biggest thing with that one. It was very much a vibe. And yeah, having a look here in the description box, it does give us a purchase link to Atlantic Records, so still on Atlantic at this point in time. So with that in mind, I'm not exactly sure when she switches over, because between Sugar High and Pink Pony Club, which Pink Pony Club, from what I understand, was released once she was then signed to the next deal, which is with Universal, or at least, you know, Island Records, which is owned by Universal. So yeah, I'm not quite sure, unless Sugar High was sort of like something left over from the deal and then was just gonna get released anyway. So interesting. But next up is School Nights Live Acoustic. I do find the like subtle dark undertones under a lot of these songs very interesting. Ooh. Wow, that's interesting. Like, I guess the songs get sold as these like pop songs, but yeah, there's this interesting dark undertone. And we get some nice vocal runs there, but we already heard that earlier in the song. I think it would have been better, yeah, ended on the word lie, and that would have really drove home, you know, it's a very big impact. But overall, quite interesting. As I mentioned, yeah, the sort of slightly dark undertone, the kind of more or less of like a rhythm and blues kind of influence. It's quite interesting, the fact that she's sort of like moving between these two very different worlds. You know, there's the very synth forward pop stuff, and then there's this, yeah, sort of very acoustic R&B with a little bit of a dirty bluesiness sort of in there, sort of kind of hidden. Maybe it's just because, you know, these ones are more guitar driven within the musical composition that's backing Chappell's vocal. Like, maybe if you just took the composition and played it on piano, that might take that feel away, but I don't know. It's quite interesting that, you know, from where she started at Good Hurt to then come to this point. And then also something I haven't mentioned is throughout this whole time, Chappell was also releasing these covers of, you know, very well-known artist songs as well, like What's Up from Four Non Blondes and Your Song by Elton John. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So from now, there should be quite a large shift in basically everything, in style, production, influence, because from now, you know, we've got Pink Pony Club up next. This is where, from my understanding, Chappell then signs to Universal Music Group under Island Records, and also starts to work quite heavily with songwriter and producer Dan Negro, who, you know, has a background as an indie rock artist in his band As Tall as Lions, but then, from what I'm reading here, has worked with Kylie Minogue, Olivia Rodrigo, Conan Gray, Sky Ferreira. So quite a lot of, yeah, these bigger pop artists, you know, Kimbra as well, which is quite interesting on the song Cameo Lover, which is quite an earlier one for Kimbra, and yeah, it has a bit of this sort of darker element. Even worked with Billy Idol on a song. Who else? Lewis Capaldi. So yeah, really quite interesting. And from what I understand, sort of, yeah, Dan and Chappell have been working together quite consistently throughout her full-length album and a few singles along the way as well. And then, yeah, since the release of the album, there's been this massive, slow explosion of her success. So it'd be very interesting from this point on to see how things change now with this perspective of sort of where she started and then was even moving towards up to this point. So I do have to preface, I have listened to a few of the more popular Chappell Roan songs released from her album. My wife is a massive fan, and so I've heard them, in the car and around the house. However, I haven't really sat and listened to them and analysed them in this fashion, so this will be something slightly new for me. Wow, okay. So yeah, as I mentioned, I've heard this song quite a lot, but now with the perspective, particularly that first verse and pre-chorus leading up to the chorus, it really adds such a level of depth that wasn't there before, particularly to those lyrics, because yeah, having gone through all those songs, and I think particularly watched the mini documentary, that really has given such a deeper understanding to me to now be able to understand these lyrics from a more personal perspective. And also, I've read through Chappell's Wikipedia page, and there's some information in there regarding sort of her upbringing, her parents. So yeah, with all of that knowledge as well, it makes things very interesting now. I will say, obviously, yeah, the production quality has had a massive step up. I think as well, the composition behind everything is on such a heightened level. Particularly, I think the piano that opens up the song, it starts off really nice and simple, but then it slowly becomes more complex and yeah, really just adds to the entire thing. And then there's that drop into the pre-chorus, which you can just tell that, yeah, there's a producer and the songwriters behind it that just really understand both the lyrical content and have a very clear goal that they're trying to achieve. Because even the way Chappell's vocal has been mixed, it's so much clearer, it's so much more intelligible. You can really understand every word that she's saying, which it's important. I think you can really, again, write this song off as a pretty basic pop song, but I think, as I mentioned, with all that extra information now behind it and being able to hear the vocals so clearly, understand the lyrics, it really is just a testament to, I think, obviously the lyrics themselves, but I think the team around Chappell now that really understands what she's trying to achieve as an artist. Yeah, so good. But I think there's also, lots of elements that are still there from before. I think even in the, the outfit that she's wearing, it's very reminiscent of like the backdrop that was in one of the acoustic versions and that sort of thing. Yeah, there's still some familiarity, some similarities at this point. It's not like she's a completely different artist. So yeah, it's really cool. I think also the more focus on a performative element makes a lot of sense as well, particularly when it is just a artist by themselves, performing under their artist name. There's still also like a quirkiness, I think, to the music as well. A sort of kitsch. Particularly in... like just the little background sort of elements. Really adds to the aesthetic of sort of like, yeah, 80s synth pop, but it's not full pop. You know, there's, yeah, sort of weird artsy elements that make it distinct. Give it its own flavor. I'm sure there's some sort of significance to having the drag performer there playing the guitar, but as a guitarist myself, it kind of irks me seeing non-guitarists play guitar. But yeah, that bridge really nice, and the fact, yeah, that everything builds up so slowly from this point as well. Again, gives great focus to the vocals, great focus to the lyrics. It's funny as well that, you know, the lyrics are both silly but very serious, and you can tell very personal, but I think all of the other videos previously were also very serious, where this is fun. So there's definitely a big shift there as well. I do wonder as well, you know, just from the musical perspective, you know, there's definitely a lot of, and artist perspective as well, I guess, you know, you can make a lot of comparisons to someone like Kate Bush, where it's not, I guess it's not as stripped back as a lot of Kate Bush stuff was back in the day, but definitely in the performative element and the sort of theatrical element. But for anyone that knows about Kate Bush and particularly sort of her earlier records, you know, all produced by David Gilmour, you know, being the lead guitarist and one of the main songwriters and vocalists for Pink Floyd. And, you know, there was always these subtle guitar references, you know, guitar solos that in a lot of Kate Bush's music as well. So I wonder if that's why there was a guitar solo in this song, or if it just sort of adds to the funness. I don't know. Could be some connection there. Now, I'm gonna skip over the behind the scenes video for Pink Pony Club and go to the acoustic version of Pink Pony Club. Quite amazing that so far, this almost sounds exactly like the studio version, which is a very big testament. I think this is the first time we've actually seen Chappell play as well. I kind of prefer the vocal performance that we get here. Although I do think the one thing that is missing is kind of the funness that we get from the production elements and composition from the studio version. I wonder what the meaning of Pink Pony Girl is. Is that a colloquialism? That's something that Chappell's made up. Is it like an in-group reference that's just over my head? Let me know in the comments. Really like the set dressing, the haziness. Color palette's really cool. Works very well. I think it does lose some of the funness that you get in the fully produced version, but yeah, it definitely gives you that deeper connection to the lyrics and the vocal performance. It was really nice touch. I really do like, yeah, I don't know if it's just a new artist thing, but I have noticed, yeah, a lot of pop artists, particularly over the past 4 or 5 years, you know, release a song and then release an acoustic version or a live version a few months later. I think it seems to really work very well in this day and age where artists are sharing a little bit more of their self, you know, making things a bit more public on their own terms, which is, I guess, just, yeah, helps develop a deeper connection with the audience. And at least for me, the acoustic versions definitely, or live versions, help do that so well. Now, I don't usually do lyric videos, but for this one, because there is also an acoustic version, I am going to check out Love Me Anyway, the official lyric video, and then follow that up with the acoustic version. This is cool. I wouldn't call this a lyric video. Like, this is actually a very creative lyric video so far. Yeah, very much synth pop forward. Not a bad thing. She has mentioned summer camp at least twice now, maybe 3 times. And looking at her Wikipedia page, it does mention that in there that was kind of a bit of an aha moment, a bit of a shift in her trajectory towards, you know, becoming an artist. So it's also interesting how often it's getting weaved into the lyrics and the storytelling. But yeah, this is probably one of the most creative lyric videos that I've ever seen. And as I mentioned, I don't know if I would actually call this a lyric video. I think it's, I think you could just call this a music video. And it's funny as well, you know, previously we had these songs that had the dark undertone and sort of like, when now it's like the dark undertone's still there within the lyrics, but the music is so fun. And the videos as well. The videos are very fun. So I really like that contrast. There's sort of a deepness, a depth to the lyrics. But it's all packaged around this very bright synth pop aesthetic. Some really interesting production elements in this song as well. Yeah, some very nice production elements in there. Particularly some of like the background elements, like I'm guessing was a guitar that had that like very hard tremolo cutting effect. That was really nice. But there was a similar thing earlier on where it was like a synthesizer was doing that same thing. Kind of just added that little extra sort of element that I think without it, the song would still work, but it just, yeah, adds that little extra sort of ear candy, which is really nice. Particularly when it comes to like synth pop songs, because they can be quite lackluster in the production sometimes. Okay, so now onto the acoustic version. Again, really like the aesthetic, the haziness, the color palette. Set dressing as well, really fun. Really interesting choice of the Fender Rhodes electric piano here. I think the darkness works very well in contrast with her vocal. I was kind of gonna say, yeah, same thing, like we lose a little bit of that funness, but we obviously get a bit more seriousness and depth behind the lyrics. But I think, yeah, the electric piano gives a lot of character as well, so it kind of has a bit of that kitschiness to it. There was something very, yeah, for non-blondes in that vocal sort of passage there. Interesting, pretty nice stuff. I will say, I don't think these are one-take live performances. It does seem like there are some obvious cuts to compose a full take of, you know, sort of like the best performances, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think, yeah, when you've got a vision of releasing something very particular, of a particular quality, I think as well. I think releasing a version, an acoustic version that is also a live performance, you know, if you can get it in one take, that's really cool. But I think if you can't, you know, it's not necessarily a game changer unless you are like, unless every section is a completely different take. But to me, there was definitely at least 3, maybe 4, yeah, sort of different takes in there that I could tell that there was intercut between different performances, but still great, you know, still obviously, I think by this time as well, it kind of feels like Chappell's very confident, which I definitely didn't get that earlier on, you know, prior to Pink Pony Club. So yeah, really, really cool to watch this development of an artist over time. So I'm gonna skip over the cover of Dreams and the cover of Yesterday. So next up, I'll be checking out Naked in Manhattan official music video. The shoe phone. Yeah, so well produced pop music. Like, it's just got everything so well done, dynamically, texturally. Everything just seems so much more precise and well thought out. Musically, vocally, the video clip as well. Even like the production around the vocal performance as well, you know, whoever is producing really knows, you know, when to use the chest voice, when to get Chappell to use a head voice so that it's impactful. Yeah, overall, you know, it really is just top quality pop music at this point. You know, it's very fun, it's very vibey, it's got a very strong aesthetic behind it that's driving the whole thing. I think the one thing that really stands out in this song is the backing vocals for me. Something about the way, you know, you've got kind of got like the shouted group vocals of the touch me, touch me, touch me, and there's a few other lines that do a similar thing where it's just like, it again kind of adds to the funness, adds to the vibe, makes it not so serious, because I think that's something that you kind of can get with a lot of synth pop music as well, as that it kind of comes, that there's a weird kitschiness to it, but there's also a weird, like, because it's almost stepping on that like synth wave sort of stuff, which is kind of got a bit more of a darker tone to it. So yeah, to have like the fun background vocals that kind of lighten it up overall is really nice. And yeah, just everything as a whole, as a package at this point, seems very set and very, you know, there's like a clear goal that's trying to be achieved. Next up we have My Kink is Karma. Very interesting contrasting elements in the set dressing here. Again, you know, it's such an interesting contrast between how serious and dark everything is, but then also how overtly fun and bright and entertaining. Yeah, there's just such this weird composition that's happening, which I think if you only listen to the song, maybe you don't quite get the full experience. Whereas yeah, the music videos, they just add such an extra level of depth to everything. I really like in this one, there's an effect that's been put on the drums where it's sort of like slowly cycling through the effect. And it's kind of got like that bit crushy thing, but then there's some sort of modulation effect put on there as well, which is just adds this really interesting texture and kind of moves it a little bit away from the synth pop thing and more closer to just an EDM kind of sound, which is really nice. Yeah, just to get something a little bit different texturally within the musical palette, but obviously, yeah, once the chorus kicks in, everything is very back to synth pop world, which makes sense to have that contrast between sort of the verses pre-chorus and then the chorus, so that it has room to build up, which is very nice. It does it very, very well. It's almost got like a 9 Inch Nails thing, you know, the drums. But then everything else around it is, yeah, very bright synth poppy. Ooh. That's a really interesting shift musically. That's such a weird tension. Yeah, obviously very theatrical, very much performative in a way that very much serves the song and makes, yeah, adds a little bit extra depth to the song, makes it its own thing, I think, as well. You know, there's such a big level of entertainment value in the music video here. But I do really like, you know, there's still that haziness, there's these like little elements that are carried over that, even though thematically it's very different to a lot of previous official music videos, there's, yeah, still these little things that have carried over that are kind of, I guess, maybe staples by this point in the aesthetic that is trying to be achieved. The only thing with this one, when it comes to the music elements, is that there is quite the apparent use of just like a lot of copy and pasting, you know, particularly the first 2 times you hear that vocal break right before the chorus kicks in, you know, it's really nice because you're not expecting the music to drop out and it just be a vocal to transition into the chorus. And of course, you know, going from like the more spoken wordy chest voice to then the head voice is really nice. But then, yeah, once you get it that 3rd time, it doesn't really have that same impact, I think. And it would have been nice, yeah, just slight variations for that final chorus to make it so, yeah, it wasn't as copy and paste, so that we did get something a bit different musically or especially, you know, vocally. It is also very interesting as well, you know, obviously the lyrical shifts over the past few songs have been quite dramatic and definitely much more explicit. I don't think more personal, I think just more explicit. And it's obviously a very clear example of, you know, not just a young artist, you know, evolving, but also, you know, a young woman becoming comfortable in herself. Next up is Casual official music video. Very dramatic, very cinematic. Yeah, so it's pretty obvious, you know. I think musically this one, it's very simple, it's okay, but obviously the lyrical content is, I think, what is going to draw a lot of people in, is going to be the thing that really grabs people for this one. But I think, yeah, overall the song itself, it's not the strongest, but it's definitely, obviously, very personal. And I think a lot of the time listeners are looking for that. Listeners are looking for developing a deeper connection with the artist. And when you release something particularly that is something quite explicit, it just adds, yeah, such a level of depth that you wouldn't get. It's nice when an artist goes a little bit further and can develop a interesting, compelling musical arrangement around those themes. But yeah, sometimes that's all you need, is you need a nice basic song to then deliver the lyrical content. Obviously on screen we're getting, again, you know, there's a lot of similarities. There's, you know, this haziness that's over everything. There is, I think, even just like the references to older technology, like, you know, the TVs that we've seen. So even though that maybe the music isn't as sort of synth pop driven, which, you know, that genre itself brings a lot of nostalgic value with it, you're kind of getting that on screen. I think as well, you know, again, another maybe nod to Kate Bush is when it does go into the TV and there's that sort of scene of them dancing around, you know, that seemed very Kate Bush as well. You know, there's the funness within the seriousness. There's that, again, a little bit that darkness undertone. I will say the song progresses very well there throughout that bridge. Because yeah, up until that point, it really hasn't gone anywhere musically. Whereas yeah, really nice build up of the bridge, and we get, you know, that nice sort of arpeggiating synth line in there that really helps, and sort of everything builds up very, very well. I do like that we get these variation on the vocal lines as well. I think because musically there isn't a whole lot different. Yeah, the last third of this song is really something. But I guess, yeah, without the first 2/3, it kind of isn't what it is. Yeah, very much a slow burn sort of song. The siren. Cool. I really like a credit scene at the end of a music video. It's a nice touch. Now we're on to Kaleidoscope official music video. I like this text as well that's being used. It's really nice. Really nice subtle lens effects. Work really well. So yeah, even just like the simple set dressing, the lighting, really nice. What a shift in musical style as well. Like everything's been built up to this point, you know, from Pink Pony Club to this point. There's very strong synth pop influence. And now it's, yeah, we're very much in 80s ballad mode now. That was really nice. Really nice. Gentle but powerful at the same time. Very reminiscent of some of those earlier tracks as well, you know, in both musically, but I think most definitely the video clip. You know, it's sort of like the earlier clips that were in similar vein. It sort of feels like maybe this was the original intention. You know, the budget just wasn't there to do it, where now it really is. And some very beautiful lyrics, some great storytelling within them as well. But I will say, yeah, I think it was more just the music as a whole, you know, everything harmonically and compositionally just worked so well. It was really nice that it was so nice that it was kind of hard to follow along with the lyrics, but I think this particular song has a lot of re-listen value so that you can delve deeper into the lyrics as well. You know, sort of like, it's like the feeling and emotion draws you in, and then you delve further into reading through the lyrics from that point. So next up is Red Wine Supernova. There's 2 versions of this song. I don't know why, but I guess we'll find out. I think we're back to something that's a little bit more fun, sort of lighthearted, but still very serious and explicit at the same time. Yeah, and again, we're definitely back to something a little bit more in the 80s synth pop realm. However, musically not so much. But yeah, there's sort of like little hints of it there within the composition. But yeah, definitely very fun, very entertaining. It's got that sort of, yeah, that weird thing again. It's like very explicit and serious, but it's not taking itself too seriously as well. It's still, yeah, very, very fun. Yeah, the backing vocals is definitely adds this extra level of funness. Kind of get that like hype man sort of thing echoing back. The weird like slide guitar right in the background there is interesting choice. I guess, yeah, it kind of adds to maybe the quirkiness, the oddness, the funness. Some really nice alternate vocal takes within that sort of last outro section as well, which maybe should have came in earlier. Because yeah, I think with that one as well, there is, again, from what I can hear, a lot of like copy and pasting of sections as well. So to get more variation vocally, I think would have been good to kind of like trick the listener that it's not so copy paste. And then from there we've got the magician's cut. So I'm going to assume musically there's nothing different, but I am interested to see what a different version of the music video will do to the song. How it might change it or how it might not. Could make it better, could make it worse. Yeah, some really interesting musical choices within this one. Like the acoustic guitar is really fun, but then the way that the effects are used around that, particularly in the pre-chorus and the chorus section where it's like there's this big reverb added to it. It's kind of funny at this point, there's almost this like universe being built around all these different sort of like side characters that have been pulled in, like with the siren, and we get the magician. I wonder if that's intentional. I wonder if that's what's being built around Chappell, the Chappell universe. Yeah, again, really fun, just really well-produced pop that kind of... It really has a character, it has a vibe, it has intention as well, and a sort of a life, has texture. It's just, yeah, something... I can see why a lot of people really flocking to this music, really connecting with it, because it's so accessible, but it's also unique. You know, it just has so much character. I'm going to be skipping over the Amazon's Breakthrough Artist video and the official album trailer, and now going to Hot to Go official music video. That was a great way to open up the clip. Again, just these like little hints of adding depth and connection for the audience. Again, yeah, very fun. I think the contrast as well, again. That's, you know, very silly, but then, like, particularly with the monster trucks behind there. Interesting. So it's interesting. I don't know what it is, if it's a vocal, but it's right in the back. Just like one long note. I think it's a synth. But it's a little bit distracting because it's just so in the back there. Yeah, again, very fun. Some really nice, interesting production elements within that one that, again, you're sort of, yeah, had that connecting roots to the synth pop stuff, but also take it in a slightly different direction. I will say with this one, I kind of feel this is just a bit of a TikTok song though. I think, you know, it could just be because, you know, they're making the dance around it, but yeah, something about it, it just seems very exploitative in a weird way. You know, it's a fun song, but yeah, it kind of feels like the intention and purpose is less of releasing a great song and more and creating something that can be used as marketing tool, which obviously is a very smart way to do it. But yeah, it just feels a little bit less sincere than a lot of the previous stuff. And then I think that theory maybe fuels the reasoning to have the music video set up the way that it is, where, you know, going to the hometown and getting family involved and that sort of thing, you know, that then kind of sells it as more sincere. I don't know, just a theory. All right, so now I'm gonna go over to The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, Episode 1, Homecoming.
Oh, did you hear that? I love the nature and like catching frogs and shit. I mean, I just don't get to do that in LA where most of my job is. You know, I just like the peacefulness, and that's not really part of the Chappell Roan universe, is like peace. In me, at least. But this is very calming. Oh, there he is. There's a big frog.
Interesting little touch there, wasn't it?
See it?
Got a little bit dark there for a moment, and then it's like the frog croak just lightened it up.
Okay, this is everything in one room. Ooh! Oh my God. Oh. This is when I got baptized. This is the day I got baptized. That's crazy. Yeah, it's gotta be in here. I'm gonna find it. What the fuck is this? Oh, this is it. This is it. The rainbow
Cool.
strap. Okay, pride. This is how ironic. Very on brand. I remember in that photo though that I showed you earlier, I'm holding the guitar upside down.
Yes.
So it's like the neck is over here. It's so weird.
Interesting little look in.
I've always wanted to tie my project back here. Like, for some reason, even though I felt like I didn't belong, it was just like a part of me to be like, I have to honor this place that raised me, no matter no matter how I feel about it. Like, it's just always going to be a part of me. This job allows me to do and be whoever I want because there's no boundaries. Like, and that was like the point of it all, you know, to be anything I wanted, because I feel like here in Missouri, I feel like I don't allow myself to be that version of that here in Missouri. You know? I feel uncomfortable. The last time I was, like, it was out on the stage at the Galois this past tour in March. I looked out and I thought I would recognize everyone, and like, I didn't hardly see anyone in the crowd I knew, which I was like, oh my God, where were all these gay people? Are they hiding? Like, all of them. I was like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. And for like the first time ever, the wall of me, the fear of me like not belonging in my hometown was like broken by knowing that there are so many queer people here.
Very interesting that she had to go somewhere else to find the comfort and then bring this version of that someone else, you know, back to then feel comfortable here. And now over to episode 2, A Dream Come True. Really cool to see that, you know, the funness from the music videos is also sort of transitioned into the live performances as well.
I posted like in 2020 the title, and like I didn't even know that album was gonna exist yet. It just all made sense. Like, I got a tramp stamp that literally says Princess, and I was like, oh, this is all
Interesting. I didn't think that was real when it showed up in one of the video clips.
Snarky, like raunchy girl. like the outfits that I pick are outfits that remind me of what I would find in a Goodwill here. Not super high fashion. It's not super, you know. It's like kind of tacky, honestly. Like, my jewelry's from Claire's. Like, I wanted to make it, like, honor that part of myself here, you know. Then I feel like it didn't come true. It's crazy. I look back at myself and think about this girl who was like really self-conscious, not confident. Oh my God! Wait, I've never even seen this photo. This is crazy. This is so like Chappell Roan, like. And then this girl, I would like loved this giant belt buckle and everything. This girl made fun of me. She said, like, why do you wear these boots every day? You're not even a cowboy. And I was like, I felt like a fraud. And so I stopped. But this is so slay. The popsicle is insane. Like, that's insane. I still feel really self-conscious on stage sometimes, but I'm doing it for my younger self, who like the version of me with in the cowboy boots, who like.
We heard her voice the first time at a junior high talent show.
Well, we didn't know she could sing the first time we went to see her. And I didn't cry, but my eyes leaked a lot. But I love listening to her sing.
All the grandparents were crying by the end of the, and so it's kind of that way every time we see her. It's emotional.
And we always get emotional.
Yeah.
Because we love her so much.
It's very sweet.
All the grandmas are crying. Even Papa's crying.
That was very sweet. It was interesting, that section at the start where she's talking about, you know, the clothes that she wears. Because I've been sort of wondering of, yeah, why is there this very strong sort of 80s aesthetic, both within the music, but also the way that, you know, so she presents with the costuming and whatnot. And now it makes sense that it would be, yeah, sort of this like Goodwill, Samaritans, you know, op shop styling that then also works very, very well with the music. So that was really interesting. A really interesting look into both, I guess, yeah, the past and then the present at that time when these were released, which was about a year ago. Particularly now with like some of the social media videos that Chappell's released where, you know, sort of criticizing fans for being over indulgent in sort of wanting things from her. You know, sort of, yeah, just in 12 months how things can change where, you know, she's went from, I guess, seeming quite open, particularly both obviously within the music, but now with these little, you know, glimpses here to, I guess, now seeing that it might have been better to be a little bit more closed off. All right, so now I'm going to check out the live version of Pink Pony Club from the Amazon Music City sessions. So I guess this is the first live video with the band as well. But of course there's some backing track elements as well. Interesting, I wasn't expecting such a heavy, distorted guitar tone, which really adds such a different texture and tone to the song. Particularly the live drums as well, the open hi-hat. I guess having the live band as well would add such a different energy for the live performance, because you can see, you know, the jumping around and the energy that's on stage. I don't know if you'd be able to get that same level of energy without having just a simple backing band. Alright, so I'm gonna skip over a couple of official audio tracks and go to the official visualizer for Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl. Interesting. Interesting. Wasn't expecting the club vibe. What a change, what a shift. Yeah, definitely a big move away from the 80s synth pop style, and now it's onto this very sort of like club-based pop, and now much more reminiscent of like a Lady Gaga kind of thing. I think the alien character also works very well with the genre shift as well. Like, this is what I would expect if an alien was to come to Earth during the 80s. This is like their music that they would make during the 80s. Because it's still very like synth based, but it's just not that synth pop style. It's very futuristic, I guess it would be. Yeah, it reminds me very much of Born This Way and Edge of Glory, but there's another song that is just, it's not coming to me, and I'm gonna kick myself later when it comes to me, but yeah, it sounds like a weird mashup of two songs, and I just can't think of what the second one is, but anyway. All right, so now we've got two live performances from the VEVO Artists to Watch series. The first one will be Casual. Interesting approach for a live performance, like live in studio. Like very produced. Like I kind of preferred the more stripped back live performances. This is, yeah. This is more like a music video clip than a live performance. Like, it's so produced, why bother listening to this version? You know, it's so close to the studio track. Particularly because, you know, there's a backing track being used to add all those extra instruments that aren't being produced live, so yeah. Like, great performance, you know. Chappell and the band are doing perfectly fine, but yeah, it feels weird that it's so close to the studio track. I do like the set though. The set was pretty cool. Alright, and now Red Wine Supernova Live. Yeah, again, you know, it's a great recreation of the studio version, but there's nothing really new. You know, like it is more of just a music video to me. I guess it is very impressive that, you know, they can recreate the songs live and it sounds so close to the original. Yeah, like it would have been fun to take this opportunity and make it slightly different, make the song slightly different. Yeah, great performance, but what purpose does it serve, I think is my question is, yeah. I guess probably really great publicity and marketing, but as for the song, as for the art, I don't know. Alright, and lucky last, Good Luck Babe official lyric video. I was hoping that we would get a lyric video that was creative like the previous lyric video that we got. This one, it's not bad, but yeah. I liked the craft element. Like, this is very on point for the vibe and the aesthetic that is being sold as, you know, Chappell Roan, but as for the creativity, it's okay. Like, it doesn't necessarily add anything to the song. Whereas, like, the one, whereas, yeah, like, all the Polaroids and everything, that had true meaning, I think. This is just sort of kind of fun because it's got that kitschiness to it. With, like, clip art and silly GIFs. I wonder if that really is a Shutterstock image. I will say this song in particular is so 80s synth pop. It really is. Like, even those synth strings just in the back there. Everything, you know, the musical palette here is so 80s synth pop. There's even many moments within the vocals that are very Kate Bush. also another one of those songs where the last third of the song is kind of like the most interesting part as well. So it has a really good payoff, but yeah, the first 2/3 are kind of like, it's not bad, it's not great, but yeah, you kind of need those first 2/3 to have the payoff at the end. Particularly that outro is really cool, the way that slows down, but it doesn't do it in such a way where it's gimmicky either. Like you could have very much put, you know, like a VHS sound effect in the back there that would have then, I guess, yeah, also had that sort of 80s connection, but I think that may have cheapened it. Whereas, yeah, the way that it does it is very, very well done and had such an interesting effect to the song. So I kind of opened up this video with a little bit of a question regarding, you know, is Chappell Roan just another sort of cookie cutter pop artist? And I think it's quite clear that that isn't the case. I do think that maybe the producer around Chappell Roan and with the songwriter Dan Negro maybe reining things in a little bit to make it a bit more commercial. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, those undertones, particularly, you know, the darker undertones and obviously the very explicit, you know, sexual undertones as well that really make her stand apart from a lot of cookie cutter stuff. But I think there's also something else in there, particularly something that was kind of hinted at in the little documentary videos for the rise and fall of the Midwest Princess, where, you know, she sort of mentions that the goal is to come back and or bring everything back, you know, bring the project back to her hometown. And I think as we kind of saw through the progression of her as an artist and as a person, you know, develop into this version, which is, yeah, that very 80s synth pop version, I think over the next particularly 10 years, we'll see quite a further evolution, and I think we'll kind of get back to some of the more alternate country roots that kind of featured particularly in, I think it was Die Young. Yeah, I think that was the one which had that sort of like R&B with a little sort of a dirty bluesiness to it. So it'll be interesting to see, yeah, if over time, you know, things sort of circle back around and she gets back there, and after this kind of stint in this 80s synth pop realm. I do also wonder if, you know, sort of, she even mentioned it, you know, the Chappell universe. So yeah, these characters as well that sort of pop up, and kind of like what we saw in Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl, you know, that is a really interesting way of being able to explore different genre palettes and still have it connected in such a way that isn't sort of like a direct connection to what is being built as Chappell Roan, but as these characters around the Chappell universe. So I think that's a really interesting touch and creative idea. I do hope that we see more of that, more of these like interesting characters, whether they are completely separate to who Chappell is or whether they're a part of her, which I assume they kind of are. They're sort of like different personalities, different versions of her that can explore these different genres and palettes. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. So that's it from me in this one. Be sure to let me know, what are your guys' thoughts on Chappell Roan, her entire discography? You know, are there tracks in there that I skipped over that didn't have an official music video that, you know, I kind of need to check out? Let me know in the comments down below. And what should I check out next? But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, check out one of these other videos that's appeared before me, leave a like, and you'll catch me in the next one.